Hi, I'm Steve Orlebeck. I'm the engineering manager at Harken, and we're going to talk about ice boats today. And I brought a couple of my rides in that we can take a look at. I'm standing here in front of it's actually my brand new DN. The hull's brand new, it hasn't even been on the ice. And what makes it different than the boats I've sailed for the last 20 years are the hull is a bit taller, and generally the trend in the class is people are sailing with softer masts, more bendy masts, de-raking them, standing them up, and then lowering the sail down. In order to do that with my old boat, the hull was shorter. I didn't have room for the tiller to tack and jibe once I put the boom way low. So this boat, the hull is higher, allows me to put the sail down. It's all about aerodynamics. So if the hull is taller, the skipper can get down in the boat more and my elbows aren't hanging out. And the boom's getting lower, so maybe you've heard about the end plate effect on moths and ACATs, and look at the America's Cup boats. They're taking the end plate effect to the nth degree. They're closing that gap. We want to close this gap off totally as much as we can. So that's why we want to get the boom low. And then from the top view, it's a little bit wider at my feet, so I have room for my giant feet. And the curvature in the back of the hull is pushed a little bit farther forward. Right where my elbows are is where the widest part of the boat is, so I can get my elbows tucked in. And the cockpit is longer than any boat that I've had. It's a maximum length cockpit. And you can see I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm probably the tallest guy that sails a DN in the world. So I can fit in this boat better, hopefully. I designed the hull shape and then printed off some full-size templates and shipped them over to Ron Sherry in Detroit. And Ron Sherry built this boat for me. I like to use a braided main sheet because you're sailing with, mittens or gloves on, and a straight piece of rope can get really slippery and be hard to hang on to. So I like this braided main sheet. It works good for me. I can hang on to it really well. When the boat's up to speed, the middle of this mast will be bent out maybe 18 inches or 2 feet, and the sail will be almost completely flat. The mast will be rotated a little bit to help give a little bit of power. And you can see in the back of the boat here, I've got the sheet pulling the boom aft a little bit. That's typically what you want to do, because it helps you de-rotate the mast once you're up to speed and you're trimmed all the way in. In a lot of respects, the DN is a box rule. When it comes to the hull dimensions all have windows you have to be within. Okay, and the same with the plank. The mast bend characteristics can be all over the place. The mast dimensions, fore and aft and side to side, are pretty tightly controlled. The sail dimensions are pretty tightly controlled. But there's windows for everything, so there's a lot of room for people to play around. Okay, so I'm talking a little bit about ice boat runners, and in the DN class, in the rules, there's a lot of different options for different types of runners. And the reason you need different types of runners is because the ice is changing all the time. Or you might show up to a regatta and there's 2 inches of snow on the ice. So then a runner like this isn't going to work too well because the body's going to be dragging in the snow. Generally, this is called an insert runner, where there's a piece of steel inserted into a wood body and there's carbon on the outside to stiffen it. If you have a set of these, and this is called a plate runner, so you can see the steel is taller, it helps you go through snow. If you have a set of plate runners and a set of insert runners, you cover 95% of the conditions you're ever going to encounter. So somebody getting into the class, just starting up, you get those 2 sets of runners nailed down and you're pretty competitive in almost all conditions. So some of the things we play around with in the DN class is the amount of crown fore and aft in the runner, the angle of the edge, So this particular one is 95 degrees. I think this one is 100 degrees. This one's a little shorter, so you might use this in some stickier conditions or light wind. And this is a plate runner. You can see this will allow you to go through 2-3 inches of snow pretty easily. And here you can see a Skeeter runner as a comparison. It's a lot bigger because the boat's a lot bigger. So I'm standing in front of a Class A Skeeter, which is another ice boat that I've been racing for the last 5 or 6 years. And the Class A Skeeter is virtually, it's an unlimited ice boat class. There's 2 rules. There's a maximum mast height of 28 feet, and there's a maximum sail area of 75 square feet. Beyond that, you're allowed to do anything you want with the shape of this hull, the length. This is the runner plank I'm standing in front of here. So this runner plank is 23 feet long. We just looked at the DN earlier. The runner plank on that boat is 8 feet long. The fuselage is about 30 feet long on this boat, and the mast, which is on the other side, is 27 feet tall. So it's a lot more powerful and a lot larger. And the modern Skeeters today, you can see there's a canopy. The skipper sits in front of the mast, in front of the sail, and once you're in there, you close the canopy, and it's super aerodynamic. You start this boat in a race the same as you do the DN. You're standing outside, and you have to push it off the starting line and jump in before it leaves you behind and runs you over. Same concept. You're bearing off once you start and building speed as fast as you can. So I'm cranking the main sheet in as fast as I physically can until the boat wants to go into a hike. Once the boat goes into a hike upwind and I feel like I'm all the way sheeted in, then I'll start to work up and point the boat. You steer a Skeeter, and you actually steer a lot of ice boats, Skeeters, Knights, Renegades, with 2 foot pedals that are inside the hull. So you're steering with your feet. So it's a little bit different than the DN. DN I'm steering with my hand on a tiller. This boat I'm steering it with my feet, and my hands are just used to tail the main sheet with my left hand and crank on the winch handle with my right hand. So it's hands-free. Once you're up and going and you got the canopy closed, it's extremely loud inside this thing. It's like being in a drum. Every little, you hear there's a lot of noise going on, a lot of rumbling, and it's pretty crazy. It's ridiculous. It'll go in 15 knots of wind. It'll go upwind at 60 miles an hour and downwind at 100, 80 to 100. Pretty easily. The DN, I didn't talk about that either. It'll go upwind at 40, and it'll go downwind in 20 knots. It'll go downwind at 60, 60 plus. So it's still pretty fast. But this thing will reach 100 miles an hour and sometimes exceed 100 miles an hour if the conditions are right. In 20 knots of wind, it'll go 5 times the speed of the wind.